So in my previous video, I went over what seems to be the best solo farm in the War Within, where farming a specific delve could earn you upwards of 100,000 gold an hour. And I went over all the different ways you could go about this farm. And I did also mention in that video that it seems that there is a glitch that could potentially make this farm even better. And that's what I want to go over in this video. And a recap of this farm is that completing any delve and looting the chest at the end has a chance to give you a profane tinderbox, which is a rare crafting material that's currently worth around 9,000 gold. And the Nightfall Sanctum delve and Hallowfall seems to be the best delve to farm these in this way, just because you can complete them so quickly. But you can make this farm substantially more lucrative by using a more unknown feature of Brand, because if you've been running any delves, you'll realize is that anytime you come across an herbalism or mining node or fishing hole, Brand will go over and gather it and throw you a small amount of resources. But a lot of people don't know that in a lot of delves, anytime Bran goes and gathers from any of these nodes, he has a chance to also give you a rare material that you wouldn't normally be able to get from those gathering nodes. And not all delves seem to have this mechanic, and a lot of them don't seem to be very useful, but in Nightfall Sanctum, anytime Bran gathers from a mining node, an herbalism node, or a fishing hole, he has a chance to also give you a profane tinderbox, which again is worth like 9,000 gold. And in Nightfall Sanctum, you can have up to 3 different of these gatherable spawns in each run you do. So just adding this into the base farm, you complete the delve, you have the 2 chests, then you have the 3 gatherables, all of which will give you a chance at the profane tinderbox. But I think the much more efficient way to do this is to just go after those 3 gatherables, then right click your character portrait, leave the delve, and just re-enter it again, doing all of this on tier 1, and that will generally give you more chances at profane tinderboxes. But that is where the glitch I wanted to go over in this video comes into play. Now, when this glitch is done correctly, it'll cause Bran to be able to gather from the same gatherable multiple times in a singular run. Now, this isn't infinite, it is limited, but this will just cause Bran to gather more times, giving you a much higher chance to get profane tinderboxes. And this glitch is fairly simple. All you have to do is when Bran is around 80% of the way through gathering from any of these nodes, you get in combat. Now, keep in mind, Bran gathers from all of these substantially faster than a player would, so it's usually like a second, maybe a second and a half, then you get into combat. It's going to be slightly different timing depending on if it's a mining node, an herbalism node, or a fishing hole, the fishing hole being the fastest one. But when he's about 80% through, you just attack any enemy to get into combat. You can even do this against things like critters. Now, that's a little bit less consistent than just attacking one of the enemies and getting into combat that way, but it can be done. And that's legitimately the entirety of the glitch. When Bran is like 80% through gathering, get into combat, he will finish that gather, throw you the materials, which can also give you a profane tinderbox, but he'll instantly get right into combat, so it doesn't detect that he fully gathered from that node. So after you get out of combat the next time, he'll get the little symbol above his head where he detects a gatherable, he'll run over and start gathering again. And this is pretty much only limited by how many different things are in the area that can put you into combat. Because if you had an infinite amount of enemies next to a gatherable, you could technically get an infinite amount of gathers from that one node if you did it correctly every time. And you're probably not going to do it correctly every time either. Potentially just give you some additional gathers by Bran throughout every run you're going to be doing. And every single one of these gathers is just considered a new gather. So every single one can give a tinderbox. Even if you didn't get a tinderbox from the first time Bran gathers from that node, he can still give you one of the next one or the next one. And you can also get multiple tinderboxes from one gathering node using this glitch. I have gotten 2 from one of these nodes, but that will still be incredibly rare. I've been doing this for a bit and it's only happened once to me. And overall, this isn't something that's going to be absolutely absurd that'll just like double or triple your gold or something like that. You can't actually utilize this to that degree for it to make that big of a difference. So like I mentioned, this will just give you a handful of additional gathers through every run. But with that being the case, this absolutely can increase your overall gold per hour of farming. So the best way to farm while using this glitch is to just completely ignore the objective within the delve. Once you enter Nightfall Sanctum, you'll be at basically the top of this delve. Just jump off the edge that's right in front of you, which will take you to more of the center of the delve, and you just go throughout the rest of the delve until you find any of these gatherables. Try to skip as many enemies as you can. When Brand goes over and starts gathering something, when he's at like 80%, get into combat and exhaust all of the enemies around that gatherable, then move on to the next one. Once you've gotten to all of those gatherables, you again just right click your portrait, leave the delve. Once you're outside of the delve, just re-enter. It'll put you into a new reset delve, rinse and repeat. And what's super nice about delves is that they are not instant, so they don't have any lockouts. You can infinitely do this as many times as you want. And it's actually more lucky to get the gatherables a little bit spread out, because if you weren't doing this glitch, what you'd want is all three gatherables right next to each other. So you would enter the delve, have three gatherables really close to the start, really close to each other. You have Brand gather all of them, then you leave. You could do that in like 30 seconds or sometimes even less. But with this one, you actually want them spread out so they have more enemies around every single gatherable node. But that's pretty much the entirety of this glitch. Hopefully they do fix this at some point, but I'm hoping when they go about fixing this, that they also fix the issues with some of these nodes themselves, because a bunch of the nodes in this delve and in a lot of the delves are just bugged, and Brand either won't detect them to gather from them, or he will be super glitchy around gathering them. So in some ways, this is just helping with the bug nodes that you'll find in delves in general. So if they fix both of those, I think we won't actually be a ton worse off, just because of how much of the time you can come across bug nodes. And I would also say use this at your own risk. It is technically an exploit, even though it's something that's not like crazily exploitable. Like I mentioned, it is pretty limited, and with a lot of these gathering locations, you can't even really utilize this glitch, and a bunch of the nodes, as mentioned, are also bugged where Brain won't even detect them. So I would be surprised if they start banning people for doing this, unless someone finds an additional way to just get yourself in combat like infinitely. I doubt this is going to have a major impact, but if you're doing this farm and you utilize this correctly, this can make you some additional gold. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.